Today I'm out here in this beautiful forest on the side of Mount Hood. I find some chanterelles, I find some lobsters, and most importantly, I find some matsutakes. The lobsters are really interesting. This is actually a fungus that hosts on a different mushroom. So these host on a short stem Russula. At least the majority of the time, these are found on a short stem Russula, and they'll turn the mushroom from a nice white mushroom to this orangish reddish mushroom. And later on in the year, they get more of it's like a purple kind of look to them, a darker color. And then you'll notice that the stems get kind of squishy too. That's the ones you probably want to just throw back, because when it gets that squishy stem, that means it's kind of rotten on the inside. This one is very marginal. It's like the type of thing where, you know, I know you guys do this too. You get your friends out here and they find a mushroom and you're kind of like, you don't want to just tell them, oh, it's a bad mushroom, right? You want them to feel like they're productive and stuff. So this would be one that you can say, oh yeah, take that one, because it's really not that bad. It's just a little bit, it's getting a little bit softer, but the ones that are best are like the very light orange, and they're more crisp. My wife, she made some fried rice with this the other day, and it was awesome. So we just find more and more uses for these lobster mushrooms. We're eating them in pizza. I mean, pizza's great for lobster mushroom, that nice crisp texture. You kind of saute them first, and then you put them on the pizza. They tend to collect a lot of dirt in the cap. I think it's part of this process where they start hosting on other mushrooms. So a lot of times we will end up like either taking a scotch pad and brushing off all the dirt and stuff like that, or even cutting off the tops. You know, if we have a lot of mushrooms, there's nothing wrong with doing that. If you're finding these, there's no harm in picking them. So, you know, don't be afraid to take too many of them. That's never a bad thing. You know, another really interesting thing with these lobsters too is if you look at the Russulas, those have the paper thin gills like you see in a lot of the mushrooms. But then when this lobster mushroom hosts on it, it fuses all those gills together. Isn't that wild? And it doesn't take long either. Like I read it's only a couple hours that these gills will start fusing together. I don't know. I don't know how that works. It'd be really cool to get like a time lapse of how that happens. You know, you go from all these little paper thin gills to all of a sudden it's just like a solid thing. I did see another one too. So, but yeah, these are so cool. And the thing is, I found the chanterelles just 20 feet that way. So this is one where, you know, it really pays to look for orange, golden color when you're out mushroom hunting. You know, these ones, they sometimes don't look that great because they're dirty on top, but try it. I mean, we've eaten more lobster mushrooms this year than we have even chanterelles. So got that classic dirty top on it. This is probably not good. See, it's too spongy. So that's the way you can tell. If it gets spongy, not good. See this big white thing? This is a Russula, and this is the type of mushrooms that the lobster mushrooms host on. It's called a short stem Russula. And I wonder, it's interesting how those other ones became lobster mushrooms, but not this one, and it's so close. And oftentimes you'll see them side by side. One gets hosted on, the other ones don't. And like the lobster mushroom, you remember how those gills were fused underneath? Now look at these. These are just like paper thin gills, and there's like 1/4 of an inch between each one. Look at how deep it goes. And when that parasitic fungus comes, it fuses all these together. How does that even work, huh? I don't know. Like, where does it get the mass to fuse those? That's a parasite? And that's actually the best way to tell if you think it's a little bit orange and you're not sure if it's a lobster mushroom or just a short stem Russula, flip it over, look at the gills underneath. If it's a lobster mushroom, these will start getting fused. So this is what I really came out here looking for. It's a Matsutake mushroom. This is the #1 button. So that basically means it's fail. It's still attached. So this is the best stage you want to get them in. They're the most fragrant at this stage. And you can just, when you see them, they're just poking up from the bottom. So it's still pretty early too. That's one thing I would say is it's still early. So if you're out here looking for matsutakis, like I am, don't give up too soon because a lot of times these come out like November, mid-November, late November, early December. I mean, they come out a lot later than you would think. It's just kind of a transition point where matsutakis start poking out. I got a few of these little ones, but yeah, none of them what happens when they get older, they start opening up. This veil will break. And then they'll open up and they get bigger too. They get much bigger than this. But these are the most fragrant ones. Best size to get them. This is kind of the train. So it's just pretty much like a Douglas firs, a little bit of cedars, some hemlocks too. Man, you kind of look for a little bit of the ground cover. So like Oregon grape. There's slaw. I'm not sure if you guys, here. So this is a slaw. It's very nice. They actually like this in flower arrangements because they look really nice and they keep really well. Oregon grape, I'll just show you because it's kind of prickly, but that's Oregon grape. There's the slaw. There's the shoe. Yep, and there are a few matsutakis out here. These things are lovely. It's like a cinnamon pine smell. That's kind of the best way. It may be a little bit of like red hots too, but that's the best way to identify it. It's a cinnamon pine smell. You try to smash the stem, and if it doesn't break. And when you're wiggling in the ground, just wiggle it until it pops out. You shouldn't break the stem at all. And then they always get this little bit of gray ash at the bottom. I don't know why. I don't know if they find this kind of gray soil somewhere in the forest or if it's something to do with the mycelium. I don't know what it is, but they all have that. So yeah, hey, don't give up. I know, man. It's like matsutakis are hard because everyone wants to get out there early, but then you gotta wait. You really gotta wait. I think once it gets cold enough, like a cold snap, I think that'll bring them out. So this is our old friend, golden chanterelle. This was the first mushroom that I ever started picking in the Pacific Northwest, and they're really good. They're like an apricot taste. So when they're younger, they are a little bit more like firm, but as they get older, you notice they get a little bit stringy like that, almost like a string cheese when you peel them. So that's something to keep in mind when you're cooking these. They will be a little bit stringy. If you slice them like this across the stem, if you go against the grain, that will kind of make them a little bit less stringy. Not that the stringiness is bad, but you just you think about what you're going to cook them in. The other thing I would say is I really, really love fried chanterelles. And when you do fried chanterelles, the part that's the best is this cap. So it's kind of, again, you're kind of cutting against the grain of it. You make little slices like this, and then that's what you dip in some breading and then you fry in some oil. It's really good. This is a really nice example of a golden chanterelle. It's a mature one, so it's not young anymore. That's where they really start opening in the top, and you can see a lot of this kind of like this fluttering on them. It's a very nice example. There's one here too. This one looks a little bit older. Now when they get older, you'll start to see that they start rotting a little bit. You can always cut those parts off. So just because there's a little bit of mold, say on one part of it, doesn't mean you can't eat the whole mushroom. Yeah, they're a beautiful mushroom. You get to recognize those fall scales underneath there, and then you can be very confident picking them. It's a great one to start people on when they go out picking for the first time, because they look so appealing and they're just kind of this bright orange. And the other thing I'll have to say about these is they're almost everywhere in the fall time. So I find them up over 3,000 feet. I find them down at 500 feet later in the year. They're just almost all over, and it's almost like you could just pick a forest that's like easy to walk around in, relatively flat. And that can be your spot for chanterelles. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some places where they'll really come out and you get a lot more of them, but just in general, they're kind of all over in the national forest. If you're right time of year, October, maybe into November, maybe like late September. That's the time frame you want to start looking for these. Mid-October is like perfect. Well, I gotta say, that was a pretty good day. Got some chanterelles, got some lobsters, got some matsutakes, and the best part is get to go outside, go in the forest, take a walk. It's beautiful out here. But don't forget, go out later, check for matsutakes. They're coming out too.